Good morning. This is Professor Minton, and what I want to do now is walk you through setting up some of these vendors and some of these customers. Also, giving you a little bit of insight into how the numbers were created, and then do the opening entry for you. At the end of that opening entry piece, and this is Tuesday when I'm doing this. So on Sunday, um, this upcoming Sunday, which would be, let me just check here. This upcoming Sunday will be the 18th. On the 18th, this part of it will be due. And the reason I want to do that is to make sure that everyone is on the same page to start with. If you don't have the right balance to begin with, then you've got an issue. So it'll never be in balance, right? Unless we make some adjustments. I don't want to have to go back and make adjustments to the opening entry. So make sure that you follow along with this. Now, um, to download Media Moguls, again, on your announcements page, there is a short video showing you how to download it. Now, because I could not, since I'd already set this one up, I couldn't see what some of the questions were. So after I did a class, um, I was looking at some of their questions and I tried to make sure that in the announcements or on the announcements page that I provided you with answers to those questions as you go through. Now, some are critical, some are not. You do your own accounting, that's critical. Um, you you pay your bills with cash or check, that's critical. It's a sole proprietorship, that's critical. And it is in the space of, um, I think it's professional and consulting fees, okay? Or that's the type of business it is. The rest of that stuff is, I don't know, not terribly important, but if you look at the announcements page, it'll tell you how to answer, I think, all of those questions. There might be one that I've forgotten, but it wouldn't be critical anyway, I'm sure. Okay, so I've got three exhibits down here. I've got three items that we need to consider. The first is Media Moguls Exhibit 1. That is on the content section or in the content section of your Georgia View class. The second one, I'll just pop over to it. Oops. The second one is going to be this trial balance and chart of accounts. There are down here, there are two tabs on that second exhibit that when you download it, you should be able to see this. Now, this is typically not the way that we would do a trial balance. In other words, I'm not going to show you current assets and so forth. It'll all be done by the numbers. All right. Anyway, and the third file, of course, is the Media Moguls Wave application itself. And I suppose I should show that to you as well. Whoops, that was already in it. Right there. Okay. And so the first thing we're going to do once you get in here is you'll see some um, along the side here, you're going to see some prompts or some menu items, if you will. And the one that we're going to focus on here today is the accounting one. And we're really only going to look at the chart of accounts and transactions. Those are the only two that we'll be doing today. And the first one we'll look at is the chart of accounts. We want to go first to the asset tab. So at the top, when you see chart of accounts, you're going to see assets. Now, the first thing that we want to do is to take a look at our trial balance, because unless I've given you specific instructions as I did for your vendors and your customers, the only ones you're really concerned with at this point are ones that have a balance associated with them. And the reason is that this is going to constitute your opening entry. And so I'm going to show you how I'm going to walk you through this opening entry, and then I'm going to ask you to upload it to Georgia View, and I will score it to make sure that everybody is starting with $818,125. Because if you're not, again, you're never going to be in balance. And I don't want to start that way. I want to at least start where everybody's on exactly the same page. Okay, so well, let me go back over here to Media Moguls just for a second, the Exhibit 1. And it gives you some information. You should probably read that so that you know exactly what kind of business it is and so forth. We want to set up the following customers: Jones Building Supply, Levinson, Mary Contrary, Jerry's, and Joey. Okay. And then we want to set up the following vendors. Okay. So without further ado, let's set up Jones Building Supply. Now, I've already done it. Okay. But I'm going to show you how it works. You're looking for other short-term assets. So when you look at the asset section, you're going to have a bunch of stuff that they predefined for you. Okay, buildings and vehicles, I think, is one that they have predefined for you. And but they haven't got these customers predefined. So if I look at Jones Building Supply, and again, I've already done this, so what I'm showing you now is something that I've already created, but you must create because you haven't done it yet. And you have a little edit account ID here. This is only when you're editing the account. When you initially set it up, this account ID is already present, or this dialog box for you to put in the account ID, that's already present. Okay. So want to make sure other short-term asset. If we don't do that and don't do it correctly, it may not show up in the proper place. Other short-term assets are going to show up as current assets, which means that we can now, if we've done them correctly, we can uh, actually create the um, asset test ratio and the current ratio, which is really important. So here's Jones Building Supply. I've assigned their name, okay, and I've assigned them the account ID of 120-01. 120-01. I think maybe your initial thing showed it as 120-A, but I want to keep it with a number. So please do it exactly the way that I'm doing it here, and I will change um, I'll change the information on Exhibit 1 itself. And you click Save. If you don't click Save, once you've set that stuff up, it won't stay there. It'll disappear. Okay. The second one was Levinson. So again, it's an other short-term asset, Levinson accounts receivable, and um, and you can just say Levinson, whatever it was, building supplier, whatever, I can't remember. Anyway, you can just give it that name, or you can say that's Levinson's accounts receivable, it doesn't really matter. And you're going to put in 120-02. That's going to allow us to see these things in order. Okay. And the next one that you do will be 120-03 and so forth. I don't really need to save them because I didn't make any changes. But Mary Contrary, you see, up here, Jerry's Motorcycle, Joey Johnson. Now, these do not have, if I come back over here to your trial balance, there's nothing there for them. Okay, nothing there for them yet. All right. Um, we will have to, here's your other current assets though, right here. And so if you were continuing on with this, which we will not do, but if you were, then you would probably have to change that to 120 and then come over here and debit the total amount. We're not going to do that. Okay. So probably I shouldn't even have mentioned it. The next thing we want to do is set up these vendors, and they will fall under the liabilities. And so if I come down here to other short-term liabilities, the first one is Joey Johnson Motors. And if you come down here, Joey Johnson Motors, one friendly city, blah, blah, blah. And I say number these A, B, but you're not going to do that. You're going to number them 205. I'm going to keep it the same way I have it with the other classes. 205, whoops, 01, 205, 02, etc. Okay, so each one of these, the second one will be, of course, 205-02, and this one will be 205-03, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, and again, if you if I look at this again, we'll see that I have other short-term liability. This is really important. If you don't show it as another short-term liability, it's going to pop it down potentially to the long-term liability side. That means you wouldn't be able to calculate your asset test ratio or your current ratio. That is a requirement down the road. Okay, edit the account ID and description, and I put that in as 200 here, but I'm going to change that to 205 and save it. That way we're all on the same page. Okay, and I do the same thing for all of the others. Change those to 205, but I'm not going to do that right now. It takes up too much overhead and time. All right, let's go back over to the trial balance now. And now what we're looking for is anything that has a balance. In other words, here's cash. If it has a balance in it, we need to set it up in the chart of accounts. So if I come back over, if it isn't already there, and if I come back over here and look at assets, well, I have cash in bank. It's already there. I don't need to set that one up. But if I come down here, I'm going to have to set up my vehicles. Let me go back over here again so that you can see where I'm at. I have to set up my vehicles. There's my vehicles. And I have to set up my land, and I have to set up the accumulated depreciation for vehicles. Anything that has a balance in it, I have to set it up. Okay, so let me just show you this one. This is the accumulated depreciation. And in this case, what you're looking for is account type, depreciation, and amortization. It's accumulated depreciation vehicles. Here's your account number, 151. And here's your description. I don't care whether you put the description in. I mean, for me, it's obviously, if you get the account name right, it explains everything that I need to know. And hit your save button. If you don't hit the save button, it won't save. Okay, everything that you do. And again, these are not set up. You have to set them up. And they come right off of the trial balance. So here's your land, here's your vehicles. Make sure that you have these as long-term assets. If you don't have them as long-term assets, if you put them in as short-term assets, you won't be able to calculate your current ratio or your asset test ratio. So make sure that you set those up as long-term assets if they don't already exist. Now, if they already have buildings out there under property, plant, and equipment, then just change the account number to reflect the account number on the trial balance, and you're good to go. Hit the save button. Same thing true for vehicles. And I don't know that those were there or I had to create them. I probably had to create them. But anytime you're creating something, you're just going to add a new account. Okay. Now, this is all of the depreciation accounts that you're going to eventually have to set up. But right now, the only one that's got anything in it is the vehicle. So that's the only one that you really have to concentrate on setting up at this point. But if you want to go through and set the rest of those up, just set them up the same way that you do the vehicles. There won't be any balance in them at this point, but it may save you some time going forward because when you get down at the end of the month, you have to set it up. And so if you want to go ahead and set up all your accumulated depreciation accounts, and for that matter, all of your expense accounts that are related to, and some of these, like I say, a lot of these are already here. Here we have some interest expense and so forth. Now, interest expense you're going to use, depreciation expense you're going to use, and so forth. But you don't have to set those up if they're already here. Okay. And again, for right now, the only thing that is critical is to make sure that you're setting up every one of these where it's not already set up in Wave, every single one of them. Now, again, these may or may not be there. I don't really know. I'm pretty sure that this isn't there, this isn't there. I'm not sure about the buildings, not sure about the vehicles or the land, but if it's not there, you have to set it up. Okay. And again, you're always going to use these account numbers that I've assigned here in the trial balance. Same thing is true down here for these current notes payable and so forth. So if I come back over to Wave, liabilities and credit, excuse me, come down here to other short-term liability, and you'll notice that I have these set up. That's because they've got an amount associated with them. Now, here's the deal. If you don't set those up, everything that has an amount associated with it, you're going to have to stop and fool the system because it won't allow you to go forward with transactions if or get out of the transaction screen if you don't have a balance that has debits and credits equal. So you're going to have to tell it that you have some additional credits or additional debits in the amount that, and you'll see, and I'll show you what I'm talking about here in a minute. But if you don't set these up now, you're going to have to stop and do it and fool the system into believing that you have a balanced entry. All right. So you have these short-term ones, okay, short-term liabilities. You have these other long-term liabilities. So if I go back over the trial balance, these are the ones that I'm setting up. And again, this should already be there. I hope that it's already there, but if it isn't, set it up. And there aren't that many. I think there are only probably, I don't know, maybe 15 or so things that you're going to have to set up. But that's going to allow us to post this opening entry from the trial balance. All right. So we've got all those set up now. And now I'm going to go to transactions. Because what I want to do is I want to, in all cases, as we go through, you're going to add manual transactions. And I don't know why that showed up like that, but just cancel out of it. This is what you're looking for, a screen that looks just like this. At this point, there are no accounts. There are no balances in accounts. And you have uncategorized income here, cash on hand, write a description, so forth. Okay. So up here in the right-hand corner, you're going to see the word more. If you click on it, you're going to add a journal transaction. Okay. Notice that it automatically puts something on both sides. We may have to add lines. In fact, we will have to add lines because it's assuming that most transactions are just one debit and one credit. But when we look at our opening entry, we notice that we have multiple debits and multiple credits. Okay, so let's take a look at this first one. It says uncategorized expense. That's not what we want. We want an asset, and the asset that we're looking for is cash on hand. The debit comes right off the trial balance. In this case, 35,625. And looking for credit here, but you ignore that one because that's going to be on the credit side. What we're going to do is we're going to look at the next item on our list, and it's land for 250,000. So, and notice what's happening here. Down here it says total debits, total credits. If you tried to go back and set up one of your charts of accounts, then what's going to happen is they're going to make you make this happen. In other words, you're going to have to put something down here on the credit side that is equal to 35,625 or whatever number you have in there. Okay, so now what we're looking for is still another asset called, in this case, land. Once you've set it up, it should be there. it's going to be still on the debit side for 250,000. Now we're going to add a line. Go back over to your trial balance. Now you're looking for vehicles for 120,000. It's not an uncategorized expense. And we're looking to make sure you don't pick up accumulated depreciation vehicles. This is the asset vehicles. And we're going to add a line. Notice now what you have is you have a difference of 405,625. We have to make eventually that difference disappear. The next one we're looking for is a credit for accumulated depreciation vehicles. So I'm not worried about writing a description at this point. I might come up here and write a description of opening entry. Now notice that it picks today's date. I'm going to change that to September the 30th. Whoops, I'm sorry, September the 1st. We have, let me make sure of that. I think it might be September 30. Yeah, September 30. So we're just making the opening entry here, so we want to make sure that we are in the right place. Okay. Had the caps lock on. No deal. Okay. Now the next one is not uncategorized expense again. What I'm looking for is accumulated depreciation vehicles. It's part of the asset section, but it's also a credit. If it's a credit here, it's a credit there. 73,125. And add a line. And I need to pause this just for a second. Okay, also notice after you posted this entry that now you have a difference because you have total debits of 405,625, so total credits of 73,125. This difference, again, if you left this screen to set something up like another account, you have to account for this difference. So you could leave it as uncategorized expense, put it over here on the credit side at 332,500. That'll give you a balanced entry. Then you would have to go back in and edit the entry and change that, actually delete, and over here is your delete sign. Okay, that trash cans that particular entry. All right, so add a line. Whoops, I didn't really need to do that, probably already did it. Uncategorized expense is what it's showing up as. There won't be, because this is the trial balance that we're working with. There won't be any expenses. In this case, the trial balance is your opening entry. So we won't have any expenses. We're starting from scratch. Office equipment, 10,000. Since it had something there, we should be able to find it under the assets. Here's office equipment. It's for 10,000. Make sure that you're on the right side. If it's a debit on the trial balance, it's a debit here. The next one is office furniture for 2,500. And again, because it had an amount associated with it, I set it up. Here's your office furniture, 2,500 on the debit side. And now I need to add a line. And notice I still have a big difference here, so I have a lot more things to add. The next one is buildings of 400,000. I'm going to find buildings. There we go. And it's 400,000. And add a line. Again, we see now that on this side, notice that I have 818,125. If I come back over here and look at there's no other debits here. 818,125 is what I have. That is absolutely correct. Now I have to put in all of these credits. Okay? I'm going to grab the first one, which is um, under the liability section, notes payable. Um, let's see which one that is. Notes payable, um, vehicle note payable, non-current. Oops, I'm sorry, I'm in the wrong place. This one. Vehicle notes payable, all vehicles current. So that's what I'm looking for. Notes payable, vehicles current. Current. Because if it's not current, it's not going to show up right. So you have to be really careful on this section. 376823. Add a line. The next one on the credit side, mortgage note payable current. So we got to come down through here until you find your liabilities. Vehicles, buildings, current. Again, you're on the credit side. 208814. If you make a mistake, all you have to do is edit that particular one. Okay? Add a line. So we must have land for current land is the next one. Notes payable building, vehicles, land current. Recheck and make certain. Note land, note payable current, 207347. Add a line. Notice we're still a long way out here over on the credit side. So the next one down here is the vehicle note payable non-current, due in the out years. In other words, it's not due this year. It's going to be, these are going to be due in years to come. So come down here and let's find a liability for vehicles non-current. And the amount again is 23177. And add a line. The next one, building mortgage note payable non-current. So we're going to find the building notes payable. Make sure you get to the liability side. Here's a note payable building non-current, and the amount 317,911.86. And add a line. Notice that our difference is starting to really shrink now. The next one, land note payable, non-current. That's this guy. Come back over here, 197, 926.53. And add a line. Now you notice we have a difference of 195,000 at this point. That's going to be your capital. It's right here. Uncategorized expense, no. Going to have to come down a little further now because we're looking at the capital section. That's where we at here. Shoot. I might have assumed that that was there, and maybe it isn't. Okay, so this is a perfect example of what I was talking about before. I'm just going to assign it something, and let's call it at this point, and I'll come back and change it. Okay, I'll just call it billboard revenue. Whatever I do, I've got to have this taken care of before I can go any further. And now see I have a difference. Okay, so I'm going to save that. That'll give me an opportunity now to go and to go out here and change this chart of accounts. So here's the chart of accounts, income, expenses, equity, and I don't know why that wasn't set up. There's the owner's investment. I don't know why I didn't see that. 300, it's all set up. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to transactions. I've made sure that that's set up. Here's my opening entry, and I need to see the transaction details. Now, instead of billboard revenue here, I'm going to change that. And it's as simple as that. I just have to go and find the equity, liabilities, income, expenses. The, somewhere here, we're going to see that, I'm assuming. Kind of a pain in the neck, I see. Well, I'm just going to have to follow it down until I get there, I guess. Come on. I mean, it should continue on down. Actually, it should be right here is where it should be appearing, but so let's try it another way. Let's try to, in here, let's, instead of putting this, let's try to say for search, owner's investment. Okay, well, I don't know why it wasn't showing up, but anyway, it may be just the way that this machine is working or something in terms of its size. I don't know. Anyway, so I'm going to save that. Now what I want to do is I want to get a report. So if I come down here on this side, here's reports. Balance sheet, profit and loss, sales tax, blah, 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 trial balance. Okay. Now, look, it's giving you a date here of 9/13/22. Well, we don't want that. We want the 30th. An update report. And now you see that we have all of our accounts here on the trial balance totaling 818,125. Now, what I want to do is I want to export it to PDF. I don't want it as a CSV. I want it as a, and and you're going to have to save that to your machine. Make sure you save it someplace where you can get to it. And I'm going to change this title here to Media Moguls and just put my last name on it and save it. So I know how easily to get to it. Now I've got it exported to PDF. If I were to look at my desktop here, well, I might have to cancel some of these things or show minimize them. Here's my desktop, and here's Media Moguls, and that should be as a PDF. Okay. Now I'm going to create out here for you a upload, an upload area for this. I just haven't done it yet, but I will do it as soon as I'm done with this recording. It takes us, by the way, quite a while um, to render. So I'm going to